Hello everyone, this is John King and you are watching CNN. Tonight, we bring you special coverage of the 2016 presidential elections. We have invited three business students from Rotman, Patrick Seguin, Mohit Sharma and Roy Wang, to give us a game theory perspective to this election. They have for us today an in-depth analysis of a few of this election's important issues and recommendations on what strategy each candidate should take. Take it away. Okay. Hillary Clinton is leading in the polls, so she wants to minimize risk and keep the status quo by matching Trump's policy stance. Trump is not a traditional politician. His electorate wants him to take a stance different from other politicians. He wins by standing out against Clinton and the political swamp in general. Therefore, this can be modeled as a matching pennies problem, which is played between two players, traditionally even and odd. Each player has a penny and must secretly turn the penny to heads or tails. The players then reveal their choices simultaneously. If the pennies match, then even wins and gets to keep both pennies. If the pennies do not match, odd wins. For example, both candidates are simultaneously asked their opinion on pulling the troops back from Afghanistan.
The US was supposed to withdraw all troops from Afghanistan by 2017. Now military commanders are talking about a commitment that could see troops staying in the country for decades. They're facing a resilient Taliban insurgency, as well as groups such as Al-Qaeda and Islamic State. There are now nearly 10,000 US forces in Afghanistan, and under current plans, President Obama should halve that number by the time he leaves office. But it looks as though he might defer the decision to his successor in the White House.
Hillary would prefer to have the same opinion as Trump does. For example, Hillary gets a higher score of 10 when they both choose to pull back troops or they both choose to keep troops in Afghanistan. Similarly, Trump gets a higher score when they choose differently. This game does not have a pure strategy Nash equilibrium for either side, since for every quadrant, one player could unanimously gain by changing their action. We recommend each candidate to implement a mixed strategy solution. That is, they take sides probabilistically to ensure that their move is not known to the other candidate. However, to be more realistic, Clinton has served as the Secretary of State in the Obama administration, where she was responsible for orchestrating the US foreign policy. Her opinion is therefore easy to guess from her previous foreign policies. It would hurt her credibility to change her mind at this point. Therefore, her decision that was made as Secretary of State must still stand. Hence, this issue can be modeled as a sequential game, where Hillary is forced to make the first move. In this sequential game, the second player, Trump, has an advantage of knowing Hillary's choice before he makes his move. So he should always win.
You know, you make a choice to win, and you win. And just I'm sorry, winning. You starting to get the concept now? Oops, winning.
A slightly different scenario is where there are expectations from each candidate. In our next case, both candidates have to take a stance on whether to repeal or support the Second Amendment, also known as the right to bear arms.
The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Unless, like, guns get way more advanced than today. Because this thing is totally about hunting, you guys. I'm super serious.
Trump is expected to defend the Second Amendment, given that his base and his party almost unanimously support it, and it would create grave consequences if he chose to repeal it. Clinton's situation is slightly more complicated. She would like to repeal the Second Amendment but fears that it is too risky to take that position unless Trump also takes the same position. These expectations are reflected in the payoffs. Looking at the model game, we see that Trump has a strictly dominant strategy. This means that his strategy will always be better than all other strategies, no matter what the other player chooses. In this case, it is always better for Trump to support the Second Amendment, as his payoffs are either 4 versus 0 or 3 versus 0. If Clinton assumes that Trump will be rational, she can deduce that he will support the Second Amendment, which in turn means that she has to select between a payoff of 1 if she opposes or 2 if she supports the Second Amendment. If both politicians act rationally, the Nash equilibrium is that both candidates will support the Second Amendment. Even if this game is played sequentially, this will change nothing. If Trump goes first, he will play his dominant strategy, and Clinton will respond by supporting the Second Amendment. And if Clinton goes first, she will anticipate that Trump will play his dominant strategy and therefore will have to choose to support the Second Amendment. Subsequently, Trump will play his dominant strategy of supporting the Second Amendment. In both cases, we will end with a Nash equilibrium where both candidates support the Second Amendment. Now, what would happen if Clinton was not sure if Trump would act rationally?
I don't know what I said. I don't remember. He's going like, I don't remember. Maybe that's what I said.
We define rationality as a player choosing the strategy that maximizes their utility. In this section, we add an assumption of irrationality to the previous Second Amendment example. If Clinton assumes that Trump is rational only 50% of the time, does this change what strategy she should take? If Trump is rational 50% of the time, he'll choose to support Second Amendment 75% of the time and choose to repeal it 25% of the time. Trump believes Clinton to be rational. To solve this game, Clinton will have to calculate her expected payoffs for each strategy by weighing her payoffs by the probability of them occurring, that is, the probability of Trump making that decision. Clinton then decides which strategy to take based on the highest expected utility. By adding this assumption of irrationality, we see that her expected utility is higher if she chooses to repeal the Second Amendment. If this was done sequentially rather than simultaneously, the outcome of the game could be different depending on who chooses to go first. In the case where Hillary chooses to go first, there is no change in outcome. It is the same decision as the simultaneous game because Clinton does not know the exact decision Trump will make, although she still expects Trump to make his decision with the same probability. In the case where Trump chooses to go first, Clinton no longer has to predict Trump's rationality and calculate her expected payoffs. She can simply react to Trump's choice and choose her best move accordingly. If Trump chooses to support the Second Amendment, she will choose to support it as well. If Trump chooses to repeal it, she will also choose to repeal it. We introduce a new problem, North Korea.
In a tweet with thinly veiled sexual connotations, President Trump declared that his nuclear button is bigger than Kim Jong-un's nuclear buttons. The president's tweet came in response to Kim's New Year's Day speech, in which he suggested negotiations with South Korea and issued a menacing challenge to the U.S.
The entire United States is within range of our nuclear weapons, and a nuclear button is always on my desk. This is reality, not a threat.
That inspired this tweet from President Trump in which he ridiculed Kim with a derogatory nickname. Rocket Man now wants to talk to South Korea for the first time. Perhaps that is good news, perhaps not. We will see.
In recent years, due to nuclear proliferation under a dictatorship regime, it has become a security threat for the US. Both candidates, Trump and Clinton, need to take a stance on this issue. They can either take a soft stance that involves diplomacy and communication, or a hard stance that involves sanctions and threats of armed retaliation. Like most politicians, both candidates are personally indifferent to either strategy. They just want to match the majority public opinion. And herein lies the rub. Neither candidate really knows what the majority of people really want. Only information available to them is that a recent Gallup poll claimed a 60 to 40% chance of majority people preferring diplomacy over conflict. And both candidates agree on this poll result. We model this situation mathematically by creating a nature player who goes first and decides which game the candidates end up playing. However, both subsequent players do not know for certain what the nature player did and hence do not know what game they are actually playing. As before, Trump gets some value from being different and Hillary from choosing the same. However, both of them derive more value from matching with the majority opinion. The payoffs reflect this. In absence of knowing what the real majority is, that is, which game they are playing, the best they can do is consider expected payoffs based on their estimates of probability. Since the best piece of information available to both candidates is the Gallup poll, we can use those probabilities. Thus, this complex problem breaks down into a simpler game. Once we have this reduced form, we can see that Clinton has a dominant strategy and she should take a soft diplomatic stance, assuming she trusts the Gallup poll results, of course. Trump does not have a dominant strategy himself, but if he has access to the same information and assumes Clinton to be rational, he can predict what Clinton should do and take a hard stance to maximize his own payoff. Thus, we will end up with a Clinton soft, Trump hard equilibrium. But what if one candidate knew what the nature player did while the other did not?
Boasts from Cambridge Analytica execs of working for Donald Trump. In footage aired by the UK's Channel 4 on Tuesday, they say the company helped Donald Trump score a victory in the 2016 election and ran key parts of his campaign. Reuters was unable to verify the video. The British consultancy has sparked a scandal over Facebook's data policies after Channel 4 released 2 video reports from an undercover investigation. The latest program shows a secretly recorded meeting with CA's now suspended CEO. During the conversation, Alexander Nix brags that he met candidate Trump many times. He also says the company did Team Trump's data targeting and ran the digital and television campaigns.
Recent revelations suggest that Trump hired Cambridge Analytica during the 2016 campaign, and the firm unethically harvested Facebook profile data of more than 50 million Americans. With that much level of insight into so many people, let's say Trump was 99% sure that the majority of Americans supported a soft stance with North Korea. Clinton is completely unaware of this and uses Gallup poll results to calculate 60-40 expected payoffs just like before, and her dominant strategy is still to take a soft stance. On the other hand, Trump basically knows which game he is playing and what the nature player did. We can consider that as a 99 to 1% weighted average of payoff 1 and 2, or we can simply take payoff 1 as approximation. We find that Trump has a dominant strategy now, taking a soft stance. Thus, we end up with a Clinton soft, Trump soft equilibrium. Guys, from your analysis, it seems Trump actually has some advantages. Are you saying he might win? Yeah, seems close to call, but we wouldn't rule it out.
So right now we have Hillary's about a 75 or an 80% favorite. We have different versions of the forecast you can look at.
The poll has Hillary Clinton up by double digits nationally, 12 points, 50 to 38, four-way race.
Clinton leading in Florida, Clinton leading in North Carolina, Clinton leading in Ohio, Clinton leading in Nevada. I could go on and on and on.
I continue to believe Mr. Trump will not be president.
And so, right now, Mr. Trump, to answer your call for political honesty, I just want to say, you're not going to be president, all right? It's been fun. It's been great. I love you. But come on, buddy.
We have a major projection right now. Donald Trump will take Ohio. And CNN projects Donald Trump will carry the state of Florida. Huge win for Donald Trump. Donald Trump, we project, will win in Kentucky, in Indiana, with its 11 electoral votes. West Virginia, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Mississippi, South Carolina, Alabama, North Dakota, with its 3 electoral votes, and South Dakota, Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, the state of Montana, North Carolina, Georgia, Iowa, Utah, Wisconsin, Arizona, Kansas with its 6 electoral votes, Nebraska with its 5 electoral votes, and Wyoming with its 3 electoral votes.
Sorry to keep you waiting, complicated business.